are the pupils of Pythagoras School and we're from Cyprus.
Our presentation is named Florence, the Treasury of the Renaissance Art. Today we're going to tell you about quick facts about Florence, the Medici in Florence, Renaissance as a cultural phenomenon, architecture of Florence, Florence monuments and statues, art in Florence, literature and philosophy in the Renaissance, and the great men of Florence. Florence is an Italian city. In the past, it was the center of the Florentine Republic, the capital of the Medici dukes and the Italian kingdom. In 59 BC, Julius Caesar founded the city as a residence for the veterans of his army, named Florence, which in Latin means blooming. The city gave the world such giants of thought as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Donatello, Niccolo Machiavelli, Dante, and Galileo. The Medici dynasty came to power in 1434. Cosimo Medici was a competent ruler and became famous as a patron of the art and artists. Cosimo invited the best artists, sculptors, writers, and philosophers from all over Italy. He encouraged creative work and invested a plenteous amount of money in the creation and development of art schools, academies, and workshops. By order of Cosimo, thousands of masterpieces were made by the best Italian artists.
Florentine artists developed the laws of perspective. Local thinkers initiated the Renaissance, and thanks to the zealous patron of art, Lorenzo de' Medici, Magnificent Florence, today bears the nickname Cradle of the Renaissance. Renaissance is a new period in the history of European culture, associated with the assertion of humanistic philosophy and attempts to recreate the ideals of antiquity. The process of spreading ancient trends has been experienced by many European countries, but it began in Florence. The Renaissance began in Tuscany, wrote Giorgio Vasari.
As for architecture, Renaissance architectural style has first emerged in Florence in 15th century and represented a conscious revival of classical styles. This style has not emerged as a slow development from the previous styles, but rather as a development set in motion by architects striving to resurrect the golden age of the past. On the slide, you can see the perfect example of Renaissance building, which is Basilica di Santa Croce. Now you can see Villa Medici at Ca' Faggiolo and at Poggio de Caiano. This is the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore, and this is the main facet of this cathedral. Right now you can see its dome, which is the second largest in the world, and the fresco, The Last Judgment.
Sculpture of Florence. Renaissance sculpture is one of the most important art forms of the Renaissance and reached its peak at the same time. The main center of development of the genre was Italy, and the main motive was the focus on the ancient models and admiration for the human personality. The new trends appeared in Florentine pictorial art at the last third of the 15th century were clearly visible in sculpture, which developed tradition realistic plasticity of the first half of the 15th century. David is a marble statue by Michelangelo Buonarroti, an outstanding Italian Renaissance sculptor that was unveiled to public on 8th of June 1504 in Pisa della Signoria in Florence. The statue is 410 centimeters high with pedestal 517. An original now in the Academy of Fine Arts in Florence, and the copy has been installed into the town square. This is the statue of Hercules and Cacus, St. George and St. Mark by Donatello.
Fine art of Florence. Early Italian painting of the Renaissance period is the pinnacle of the world artistic heritage. In complex ways, it develops in Florence in the last third of the 15th century early painting Renaissance, and with the multifaceted problems of the Renaissance realism receive a variety of solutions. The growing interest in everyday motifs, in the details of the situation, gives the picturesque compositions features of a gentility. The figures of people acquire greater harmony of proportions and flexibility. There we can see the Birth of Venus by Botticelli, the Spring by Botticelli, the Last Supper by Domenico Ghirlandaio, and Annunciation by Leonardo da Vinci.
Renaissance literature and philosophy of Florence. The real originator of the Renaissance in literature is the Italian poet Dante Alighieri, a native of Florence, who truly revealed the essence of the people of his time in his work called The Comedy, which would later be called the Divine Comedy. With this title, descendants revealed their admiration for Dante's grandiose creation.
In his Divine Comedy, that was written at the beginning of 14th century, he gave the spoken language such dignity and color that it subsequently allowed it to become the basis of modern Italian language, first literary and then colloquial. So now it is the Tuscan dialect that underlies the modern Italian language.
Niccolo Machiavelli is an Italian diplomat, historian, writer, and philosopher. He is most well known for his treatise The Prince, which was written in about 1513. Nowadays, he is often called as a father of political science and political philosophy, the great Florentines of the Renaissance. Michelangelo Buonarroti is an Italian artist, architect, poet, and thinker who was born in Tuscany in a family of impoverished Florentine noblemen. His works are considered as the highest achievement of the Renaissance. He lived for almost 89 years, an entire epoch from the High Renaissance to the origins of Counter-Reformation.
Sandro Botticelli is an Italian artist and one of the significant masters of the Renaissance, a representative of the Florence School of Art, the author of painting Spring, Venice and Mars, as well as The Birth of Venice, which brought for the artist a world fame. Leonardo da Vinci is an Italian artist and scientist, also inventor, writer, and musician, one of the largest representatives of the High Renaissance, one of the prime examples of the universal human.
Donatello is an Italian sculptor of the Florentine school, along with Leon Battista Alberti, Filippo Brunelleschi, and Masaccio. He is considered one of the founders of a new Renaissance art, in particular Renaissance monumental sculpture and relief, as well as the genre of sculptural portrait. He is known by nickname Donato Florentino.
Home to most of the great men of Renaissance art, most of the greatest masterpiece of brushwork and sculpture, Florence is truly the cradle of the Renaissance. It is impossible not to fall in love with Florence. Beauty is everywhere, in its historical part, in every square centimeter. In the conclusion, I would like to quote the poignant words of Russian writer and translator, one of the last great representatives of Silver Age, Boris Zaitsev.
Да, там жили, думали, творили, пламенели и сгорали тысячи душ. Длинными рядами шествуют они со времен Данте. Все навсегда ушли отсюда. Навсегда живы, и как в дивную корону вставили сюда свои алмазы.
Yes, thousands of souls have lived, thought, created, flamed, and burned there. In long lines, they have been parading since Dante. All of them are gone forever, but they are still alive, and like a wondrous crown, set their diamonds there.
Еще